Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by incoming junior on the North Carolina women's lacrosse team, Kiley Mottice. Last season, Kiley had a breakout sophomore year where she played in all 17 games and ended the year leading the team in goals with 33, having 7 assists, 40 points, 20 ground balls, and 7 caused turnovers. Kiley has been on the All ACC Academic team twice. Before college, Kiley was an All-American, an Under Armour All-America game participant, and was a U.S. Marine Corps Distinguished Athlete Award winner. I'm super excited to have her on today. So welcome to the podcast, Kiley, and how is everything going?
Thanks for having me. And it's been pretty good. Summer is always a fun time just to get better, be at home for a little bit. I've spent a lot of it just coaching my club, my old club, Fantastics, and just hanging out with my family and friends and playing lacrosse.
Sounds like a fun summer to me. So,
Yes.
what are some of the specific things you've been working on this summer to get ready for fall ball?
I've been focusing a lot on my range in shooting, whether that's finishing in close around the crease or step downs, off a like shooting off a dodge, a lot of stuff like that. I've also been focusing on defensive footwork a bunch just because I moved from attack to midi this past season and was just going back and forth. So trying to stay in it on my defensive skills and yeah.
Now, one thing that is pretty interesting to think about is you're going to be an upperclassman next season. So, have you thought about what type of leadership you want to bring to the team next year? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player for those young freshmen and sophomores?
Yeah, I would say I'm both a lead by example as well as a vocal leader. I think this past year, I definitely did a lot of like leading by example, but I'm also somebody that's not afraid to like say something when I see it. I also just really focus on trying to help those around me because I know what it's like being a freshman and coming into a new environment and having to get used to the speed of the game. So I think next year I just really am trying to be like a strong, calm leader for the team and be able to have those conversations with the people around me to just try and get everybody better each and every day, as well as myself better. So just focusing on that and focusing on the relationships that I create, just because I think that is the most important thing on a team is the relationships that you have with others because that is something that really allows you to lead. And it's just one of the most important things about life is just the relationships that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, have you had the chance to meet any of the new players for next year? I assume you have, like any of the transfers and incoming freshmen as well.
Yes, I've met a lot of the incoming freshmen. I'm super excited for them to come in. They're all great humans and great players, so I'm super excited to have them. Unfortunately, I haven't met any of the transfers yet, but I'm super excited to meet them.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, I was definitely a very active kid. I was just playing sports all the time. I started playing lacrosse in third grade, I believe, but I was really solely focused on soccer for the majority of my childhood up until the end of my freshman year of high school, which is when I decided to stop playing club soccer and focus solely on going to college for lacrosse. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was just very active, always doing things, playing with my sister, my cousins, my friends. But yeah,
And growing up, did you have like a favorite lacrosse player or team that you like to watch?
yeah. I really enjoyed watching Kayla Trainer just because of how shifty she is as a player. I also watched a lot of Penn State lacrosse just because I would go to their camps a bunch and see them play as well. They would come down to Philly a lot for Drexel or teams near Philly, so that's how I was able to kind of go and watch them a lot. And also I watched the Final Four was in Philly a couple years in a row when I was, I think, in middle school. So I was able to see UNC, Syracuse, Penn State, Maryland all play in person, which that was definitely a very cool experience and environment to be in to just see college lacrosse, which is awesome.
Now, before college, you played for your high school at Archbishop John Carroll. Talk about your high school lacrosse days, what you took away from it, and what's like your favorite high school lacrosse memory when you look back on it now?
Yeah, Carol was awesome. I actually decided to go there very late. I decided, I think, like July going into my freshman year to go to Carroll. Um, because the lacrosse coach at Carroll, Lorraine Beers, was also the head of Fantastics, and she kind of convinced me to go there. And it was one of the best decisions I've made. I definitely would not be where I am without going to Carroll. It was just an incredible place, and the lacrosse aspect of it was amazing. Carroll definitely taught me what it takes to be at the next level, and Coach Beers is incredible, and she's just constantly looking for ways to get her players better. And there would just be tons of open gyms and opportunities for us to just go out there and play with older girls, like college players, everything. And it was just an incredible experience. And there was always great players coming through the program that I was able to not only learn from but play with. And I think it really helped set me up for college and just what it takes to be a great player.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, you also played for Fantastics Lacrosse Club. What was your club lacrosse experience like for you, since it obviously helped make those connections and obviously help prepare you for college as well?
Yeah, Fantastics was awesome as well. There was similar to what I said about Carol. I was able to be coached by a lot of different players, college players as well as coaches. Like Sam Swart was one of my coaches, Katie Detweiler, Scotty Rose. So it was just incredible to be able to learn from them who were playing in college and in some of the top programs in the country and just learning from them and what they had to say about lacrosse and about school and everything. That was super helpful, as well as Jess Lake, who's one of the other heads of Fantastics. Um, Always just a bunch of energy, and it Fantastics is a club that is, I would say, like very gritty. And I learned a lot about just like how important it is to work hard daily, and we might not like you might not always be the most talented person on the field, but if you're the one working the hardest and doing the small things right, that's just like what the game's about, you know? It doesn't always have to be glamorous, but a ground ball is awesome too, so.
And how do you think that those experiences with Fantastics and John Carroll sort of helped prepare you for college lacrosse with UNC?
Yeah, I think it prepared me extremely well. Like I said, there were so many opportunities to just get better daily and learn from incredible coaches and players. And similar to what I said about just the work ethic, I think Carol and Fantastics are similar in the ways that working hard is like one of the most important things that like you can learn from both of those programs, as that is something you can take with you everywhere, and having a good work ethic. And that just both of those programs pushed me to be better every day, and that really just set me up in college across.
Now, you also got to play in the Under Armour All-America game. What was that experience like for you, getting the chance to play in that against the other top commits in your class?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was definitely very cool to be able to play with my future UNC teammates. It was definitely a surreal experience, I would say, just because for a bunch of years before, like my sister played for Under Armour teams in the past, and so being able to watch her play on like the Philly team and then be able to go to the senior game was incredible. And so being able to play in it was just like a dream come true in a lot of ways. And playing with my UNC teammates was awesome, as well as playing against them. But it was definitely a fun way to begin my like journey at UNC by playing with a lot of my new teammates.
Now, talk a little bit about your recruiting process with North Carolina and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at.
Um, my recruiting process was definitely a little crazy just because we were the COVID class. So we weren't able to go to campuses and see what that's about and like meet with the coaches in person, other players in person. So it was definitely a more difficult process than um most other girls just because we were in COVID and we weren't able to do much. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely it's a difficult process, but it's so exciting. I mean, when I got the text and call from UNC, like I was just extremely excited and it was a crazy day for sure, but being able to talk to Jenny and the other coaches as well as meet with a lot of the players really helped seal the deal for me on UNC. Because not only is it an incredible place, but the people are the thing that really like drew me towards UNC as well as the standards academically and athletically. I mean, when you think of like Carolina standards, you think of like ACC championships and national championships and just always going to be they're just always striving to be great daily, and that was an environment that I always wanted to be a part of. And I think that is something that definitely was clear to me when talking to the coaches and players. And it was just it was a difficult decision, but once I made it, it was clear to me that I definitely made the right one.
Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse as a freshman?
I would definitely say the speed and physicality of the game. Um, the speed of the game is just a lot quicker. You know, everybody is faster, stronger, and just getting used to that aspect and how fast the ball moves was definitely a bit of an adjustment, but I would say probably the physicality is the biggest thing. In high school, I feel like you really can't do a lot playing on defense. Like you get called a lot, the refs are on you about poke checks or anything like that. So getting used to that in college was a lot. Just because the girls are stronger and faster and having to understand how to kind of shift your play to a more of an aggressive way, I would say, just by like accepting the fact it's going to be physical and not being afraid of that. Um, so probably the physicality, I would say, was the biggest difference.
Now, talk about what it's like playing in the ACC and just the competition you face each game, because obviously it's arguably the best conference in women's college lacrosse with teams like yourself, Syracuse, and Boston College. So, how cool is it that you get to play like a top caliber like team every game you face when it's a conference game?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I love it. I think it gets better every game. You know, it's obviously it's difficult when every game that you have is a hard game, but that's what I want. That's what all of us at UNC and of the ACC want is to play competition every game because that is what makes the game fun, you know? Nobody wants to just play an easy game. You want to be able to work hard. And I think that playing in the ACC is just incredible every single game. It doesn't matter where the team's ranked at all. It's a battle every game and it's awesome. It's super fun to play in and you know every game you guys have a game plan and you're going to try to work to stick to it and just fight for it every game. So it's awesome.
Now, how have you learned to balance both academics and lacrosse at such a high level? Because one of the things you mentioned of the reason why you went to UNC was because of the academic standards that the university has. So I'm just curious of how you've learned to manage your time with the high academic workload you have, but also being on a top lacrosse team as well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely all about time management. And I think for me personally, it's very helpful to like try to carve out a couple hours worth of time where you're able to like I know that I have like 3 hours after practice that I'm able to work on my homework or study or do whatever. And then I have the rest of the night to spend time with my teammates and try to like give myself more of like a not a break, but just being able to like relax for a couple hours because I think that's something that's super important just because you are so busy every day and you have lift in the morning, then class, then practice, and then it's like, how do you have time to do a lot in the day? So being able to either find time before practice or before class starts to like get some of that homework done and just try to grind it out a little bit. I think that was something that was helpful for me is just like being able to try to give myself some time to really like lock in for a little bit and with no distractions and just finish my work so that I'm able to have the rest of the day to like be able to focus on lacrosse and be able to focus on the other aspects of my life at UNC. So just trying to understand managing time and everything like that.
You get to play under Coach Jenny Levy. What's it been like to be coached by her the past 2 years?
Yeah, Jenny's a great coach. I mean, her knowledge of the game and her experiences are incredible and she really knows what it takes to be great and to be a championship team. And I think we're just all constantly learning from her, which is awesome. And I think as a person, she just constantly brings so much joy and energy into practice and into our games. And that's what makes it easy for us to be able to like have that kind of joy and have that kind of fun when we play because our coach is the one that is bringing it. And she also knows how to push us. You know, she's has both, which is awesome because she knows that they go together very well. You know, you can't be too serious all the time and you can't have like be have too much fun all the time because you have to work hard at the same time. So I think she does a really good job of like putting those two together and allowing us to play free but also work hard at the same time. So she's just like a really great coach to play under and learn from daily.
Now, let's talk about your 2 years with North Carolina so far. So, in your freshman year, your team made it all the way to the ACC championship game and to the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament. Talk about your freshman year, what you took away from those two experiences of being in a conference final and going deep in the national tournament.
Yeah, my freshman year we had a pretty good year. I mean, we obviously wished we would have won the champion ACC championship and went further in NCAAs, but it was a pretty good year, I would say. But there was definitely a lot of lessons that I took away from it. I think for me personally, coming in as a freshman and having to adjust to like the play of the game and everything was definitely a lot. But I think what I took away is like being able to focus more on like the small things of practice and of games and like just not worrying as much about being like perfect during the games and not making a mistake and not doing X, but doing the little things that are like easy, not easy, but like a ground ball or like stuff like that. And just trying to focus on doing whatever I can do to help my team win is something that I definitely learned from my freshman year. And I think it also helped us understand, like for returners, like what it takes to be in the ACC championship and to make it to the Elite Eight, and that it's really just focusing on what you know and just working to get better every day because the team, like your team definitely changes from the start of the season to the end, and just focusing on remembering all those small little details that you learn during the year that will help you to be great is just like essential to winning and being a great team.
Now, this past season for yourself was a breakout year statistically. What would you say was like the biggest improvement you made to your game that led to the success that you had on the field? I know one thing you mentioned was you had some position changes. So I'm curious sort of how you learned to be more of a versatile lacrosse player and if you think that helped your success this past year.
Yeah, I think probably one of the most important things is being open-minded for me. I think like this past year, I came in as an attacker and I moved for to midfield for a little bit in preseason. Then with the injuries, I moved back to attack. And then we needed some more midfielders, so I moved back there. And I was kind of moving between midfield and attack this season. Um, and so I think just being open-minded, and for me, I was just doing whatever the team needed. I wanted to be on the field. I wanted to learn, and I think that definitely helped me. And I think also just being more aggressive on the field in ways that like kind of like what I was talking about my freshman year of like being too focused on perfection. And this year I was just like, if I see a lane and I'm gonna be aggressive, like I'm gonna take it, and not be afraid of getting crashed on or whatever. Um, and just kind of like I was talking about, just with the small details, I think that definitely helped me a lot. Just understanding like I can get this ground ball and then next play that's going to give us an opportunity to score. Next play, if I'm able to redefend and turn them, that gives our defense more time to set up. Just like small things like that. And I just kind of took it from the understanding of like if I can pick for this person or cut through, like that's going to give not only me an opportunity to score, but also the person next to me. So I think just coming from the standpoint mentally of like just focusing on the small things that you can do, because those small things are actually the ones that will lead you to be able to score and to be able to have assists and to be able to have your team win. So I think that was probably the most important thing that I've learned.
Now, obviously, this past season, your team had some significant injuries and didn't have the season you guys wanted, only winning 10 games. What did you learn the most from your sophomore year that you think is going to help you and your team heading into this upcoming season?
I think we all just learned how to deal with adversity. Like we had some injuries before the season that were hard to like know, but it's also like we have to understand that it's part of the game and there's going to be injuries and it sucks, but we all have to do our best to like continue to go and continue to work hard no matter the circumstances. So I think just having to deal with adversity this past season will help us all better next season to understand that like things happen, but you can't like focus on the past. You just have to be more present and focusing on what you can do right now as a team and as a culture to really help each other succeed and be the best you can for everybody next to you.
Now, what are your team's goals and expectations for next season? Obviously, you guys have a very highly ranked recruiting class. You got some good transfers, and obviously, some players are returning for some unfinished business. So it seems like you guys are bringing in a really good team next season from an outsider's perspective. But I'm just curious if you guys have sort of talked about what you want to accomplish next year as a team.
I mean, I think the simplest way to say like it's what every team wants is to win ACCs, to win the national championship. But I think on a smaller level, just having a team that is an extremely like a team focused a lot on like our relationships and how each and every like all of us can grow close together as a team, because honestly I think having those strong relationships are the things that can help put in standards that you need to like be a successful team. So I think focusing on what we can do to implement the standards that Carolina lacrosse is all about, and just really focusing on doing the best we can. And with that, we want to win ACCs and we want to win the national championship, you know? So,
So let's move on to a segment that I like to call 5 questions that have nothing to do with lacrosse. And the goal of the segment is to get to know you a little bit more off the field. So first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
um, I would say Blake Lively just because I like her as an actress, but yeah, so probably her.
Now, everyone I come across says that Carolina seems to have the best lacrosse jerseys or college lacrosse jerseys. So I have to ask you, which team has the best college lacrosse jerseys in your opinion?
Um, I would say us, but if it was gonna be another team, I honestly think we play Liberty every year, and their uniforms are pretty nice as well. But I would definitely say our uniforms and then theirs are nice.
Yeah, nothing like the Carolina blue as well. So
Yep.
now, what is the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
Underrated, I would probably say the 4th of July. I feel like it's gotten more popular the past couple years, but I don't know. I think it's a great holiday. It's like the only one in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the 4th of July, but and overrated, I would say Valentine's Day. Not a huge fan.
All right. What's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Um, I saw something about that Jaws, the movie, was based on a shark attack in New Jersey in the bay. And I just found that interesting just because I go down to the shore a lot and I'm swimming in the bay a lot. So I was just like a little bit like, it's a little scary to know,
Yeah.
but
I used
yeah.
to read these books called I Survived. I don't know if you remember that series, and they had one about
Yeah.
shark attacks, and it took place in New Jersey back in the
Yeah.
early 1900s. So I sort of
Yep.
understand why they probably chose that as as an inspiration.
Yes, definitely.
Now, who has the best off the field style on the North Carolina women's lacrosse team?
I would say Molly Longfield or Amelia Sheehan. Both have great style.
Now, last non lacrosse question is, what is one item on your bucket list that you hope to accomplish one day?
Um, Even though I just talked about the sharks in New Jersey, I think it would be very cool to swim with sharks.
Hopefully in a cage, so I feel
Yes.
like you need to be somewhat
Or just
protected.
like not big sharks, smaller sharks, but
There's those
yeah.
sharks. I feel like there's gotta be sharks that don't aren't aggressive where you can swim with them. You know, like how they
Yeah.
have those touch stingrays at aquariums. I feel
Yeah,
like
I feel
there's
like
gotta be
there's some.
something like that. Yeah, that
I
would be kind of
agree.
cool.
Yes. But yeah.
Now, getting back to one more lacrosse question. That's just what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I honestly think just being able to hold more events that a lot more like girls and young kids can come to. I know like the men's sometimes during the year they'll have like 4 teams play at a high school in like Baltimore and all the kids are like able to go to those games. So I think like holding more type of games like that where there's a scenario that kids can see 3 women's lacrosse games in one day instead of having to travel from UNC to Baltimore to wherever. So being able to like have more of those events, I think could be really um good for women's lacrosse as it will just be able to have a lot more kids see more women's lacrosse in like one place in a simple scenario.
Well, Kylie, before we let you go, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your family members, teammates, or friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I would just say shout out to my family and just all of UNC Lacrosse coaches, players. They are amazing, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. And I would say you should have Ava Bleckley on the podcast. She's from one of my Carroll teammates, so she plays for
Nice.
James.
Well,
Yep.
Kylie, just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. You're a great player, even better person, and I bet wish you and your team best of luck for next season. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.